What price was paid to preserve a bloodline so pure it became a curse? For centuries, royal dynasties wove their lineage into a suffocating tapestry, threading power through the needle of inbreeding. The result was not merely grandeur, but a legacy of shattered minds, frail bodies, and family trees knotted beyond redemption. Behind the gilded crowns and whispered alliances lay a darker truth. The women of these bloodlines, bound by the chains of dynastic ambition, bore the weight of a genetic gamble that reshaped history. Their stories, steeped in tragedy and shadowed by the unseen hand of biology, reveal a chilling paradox. Purity bred decay. From ancient courts to forgotten corners of the modern world, a haunting narrative unfolds. One that promises to unravel the secrets of history's most inbred women, where power and ruin are forever entwined. In the shadowed halls of history, where crowns gleamed and power was forged, a silent force shaped the destinies of royal women, the unyielding pursuit of pure bloodlines. From the sunlit courts of ancient Egypt to the opulent palaces of Europe and beyond, dynasties clung to a perilous tradition, marriages woven within the same tangled lineage, to preserve divine right or political might. Yet beneath the pomp of thrones and the weight of scepters, this obsession bore a grim toll. Women, bound by duty to perpetuate these sacred lines, became unwitting vessels of genetic ruin. Their lives, often eclipsed by the grandeur of their titles, were marked by frailty, madness, and loss, their fates sealed long before their birth. This narrative ventures into the heart of these bloodlines, where ambition and biology collided, to unearth the stories of women whose legacies whisper of sacrifice and sorrow. A darker tale of royalty and isolation awaits revelation. In the sweltering courts of Ptolemaic Egypt, Cleopatra II Philopator stood as a queen forged in a crucible of relentless ambition and calculated inbreeding. Born circa 185 BCE, her veins carried not the blood of Egypt's ancient pharaohs, but that of a Greek Macedonian dynasty, the Ptolemies, who wove their power through a tapestry of sibling and uncle-niece marriages. Her parents, siblings to one another, mirrored the union of her grandparents. She, too, wed her kin, first her brother Ptolemy VI, then another, Ptolemy VIII, in a cycle that bound blood to power. This was no mere tradition, but a deliberate strategy to preserve divine authority, ensuring the throne remained untouched by foreign hands. Yet each knot in this dynastic weave tightened a genetic noose. Cleopatra's rule, marked by fierce resilience amid familial treachery and civil strife, was a triumph of will over a lineage strained to breaking. Her name, a rare echo of a Syrian princess, hinted at a world her dynasty shunned, their insularity bordering on myth. She navigated a court where loyalty was as fragile as the bodies born from such unions, her children inheriting a legacy of frailty. Cleopatra II was not merely a ruler, but the living embodiment of a dynasty's hubris. Her blood, a ledger of ambition's perilous cost. Her story, etched in the annals of Alexandria, reveals a paradox. Purity bred decay, and power, so fiercely guarded, came at a price no crown could conceal. In the shadowed sands of Egypt's Valley of the Kings, two infant mummies, known only as 317A and 317B, lie as silent witnesses to a dynasty's divine delusion. Born around 1300 BCE to Pharaoh Tutankhamun and his half-sister, Ankhesenamun, these daughters never drew breath, their frail forms stillborn, entombed with royal reverence. Their preserved remains, delicate and malformed, bear the scars of a lineage stretched beyond endurance. Tutankhamun, himself the product of incestuous unions, his parents, likely siblings, carried a legacy of physical weakness, his body marred by deformity. The Egyptian tradition of sibling marriages, a sacred right to preserve divine blood, was meant to elevate rulers to godhood. Yet for these infants, it wrought only tragedy. Their tiny frames, riddled with genetic frailties, reveal a chilling truth. Even the divine could not defy biology's merciless laws. The mummies, discovered in Tutankhamun's tomb, stand as relics of a dynasty's hubris, their unformed lives a testament to the cost of purity. In the gilded courts of Thebes, where pharaohs were worshipped as gods, these daughters embody a paradox: divinity crafted through bloodlines that crumbled under their own weight. Their silent graves, tucked amidst royal splendor, cast a long shadow, whispering of a tradition that bound power to ruin, leaving only echoes of sorrow in the desert's embrace. In the opulent, yet claustrophobic courts of the Habsburgs, Maria Antonia of Austria, born in 1669, emerged as a figure of unparalleled genetic entanglement. Her lineage was no mere family tree, but a dense, looping vine, a labyrinth of cousin and uncle-niece unions that surpassed even the infamous Charles II of Spain in its intensity. Parents, grandparents, and ancestors intertwined in a relentless cycle, her genetic makeup akin to that of a child born to full siblings. This was no accident, but a dynasty's calculated pursuit of purity, weaving power through blood at the cost of nature's balance. Maria Antonia's life, though sparsely chronicled, was a silent testament to this hubris. Her story, overshadowed by her uncle's notoriety, fades in the annals. Yet, her bloodline's density remains a haunting monument. Each marriage, a knot in the Habsburg tapestry, tightened a genetic stranglehold, producing heirs frail in body and mind. Her existence, bound by dynastic ambition, was a shadow cast by a lineage that warped biology into a tragic parody. History may have dimmed her name, but Maria Antonia stands as a pinnacle of inbreeding's folly. Her life, a whispered elegy for a dynasty that sought to defy nature and found only ruin in its embrace. In the gilded yet suffocating courts of 17th century France, Marie-Louise Elizabeth d'Orléans, born in 1695, was cast into a tragedy worthy of a Gothic novel. Her father, coerced into a marriage with his cousin, an illegitimate daughter of Louis XIV, passed on a legacy woven with dynastic entanglement. As the eldest surviving child, Marie-Louise bore the weight of a lineage knotted by relentless inbreeding. Wed to her cousin, Prince Charles of Berry, she perpetuated a cycle that promised power but delivered sorrow. 3 children were born, yet none survived childhood. Their fleeting lives a likely casualty of genetic frailties compounded by their forebears' choices. By 14, Marie-Louise sought refuge in alcohol, a desperate shield against a life scripted by duty and devoid of agency. Was this a silent rebellion, or a surrender to despair's embrace? Her existence, extinguished at 24, was a tapestry of loss. Her spirit, broken by the unyielding demands of a dynasty that prized bloodline purity above all. The French court, resplendent in its grandeur, masked a darker truth. Marie-Louise's life was a requiem for a woman ensnared by her heritage. Her story, a haunting echo of ambition's cruel arithmetic, where the pursuit of royal legacy left only shadows of sorrow. In the shadowed courts of 18th century Portugal, Maria, known as the Pious, bore a crown that became her crucible. Born in 1734 to King Joseph I and Maria Anna of Spain, she was heir to a lineage choked by 16 Iberian royal unions, each a knot in a tightening genetic noose. Her marriage to her uncle Pedro was no anomaly, but a dynastic imperative to preserve the bloodline's sanctity. Yet this sacred purity exacted a merciless toll. Half of Maria's children perished in youth, their frail bodies whispering of inherited frailties, the silent scars of inbreeding's cruel arithmetic. As years passed, Maria's mind unraveled, a descent into turmoil so profound that by her later years she was deemed unfit to rule. Her reign, once a beacon of hope for Portugal's glory, crumbled not beneath swords or rebellion, but under the invisible weight of a lineage pushed beyond endurance. The epithet pious masked a deeper truth. Maria was a queen haunted by her blood, her sanity a casualty of a dynasty's relentless ambition. Her story is a requiem for royalty undone, a tale where devotion to lineage forged a path to ruin, leaving a monarch lost in the shadows of her own crumbling mind. In the opulent, yet stifling courts of the Habsburg dynasty, Marie-Louise of Austria, born in 1791, emerged as a figure ensnared by the chains of her lineage. Her parents, double first cousins, sharing both sets of grandparents, wove a genetic tapestry, so compressed it mirrored the isolation of remote tribes, rather than the grandeur of Europe's mightiest empire. Of 12 siblings, only 7 survived to adulthood, their frailty a silent testament to inbreeding's relentless toll. At 18, Marie-Louise was wed to Napoleon Bonaparte, her father's erstwhile foe, in a cold calculus of peace and progeny. The marriage, devoid of warmth, placed an empire's weight upon her shoulders, her role reduced to a vessel for dynastic ambition. Her lineage, with only 4 unique great-grandparents, was a labyrinth of repeated unions, each tightening the grip of biological decay. Marie-Louise's life unfolded as a quiet tragedy, her agency curtailed by a heritage that bound her to a fading dynasty's dreams. The Habsburg courts, resplendent in their splendor, masked a darker truth. Her existence was a pawn's journey through a chessboard of power, where bloodline purity exacted a cost measured in lost futures and unspoken sorrows. In the turbulent courts of 19th century Spain, Isabella II ascended the throne in 1833, a child queen ensnared by a lineage woven with perilous intimacy. Born in 1830 to King Ferdinand VII and his niece Maria Cristina, her bloodline was a labyrinth where her grandparents doubled as her great-grandparents, a knot defying nature's delicate balance. At 16, she was wed to her double second cousin, Francis of Assisi, in a union forged not by affection, but by dynastic necessity. 11 children followed, yet only 5 survived infancy, their frail forms whispering of genetic frailties, etched deep within the Bourbon line. Courtly murmurs cast shadows over her reign, suggesting Francis fathered none of the surviving heirs, a secret that fractured their marriage and fueled political unrest. Isabella's rule, marked by rebellion and intrigue, unraveled by 1868, when exile stripped her of her crown. Her legacy, far from the grandeur of Spain's golden age, was a tapestry of decay, where ambition outpaced biology's mercy. The throne, once a symbol of divine right, became a crucible of her lineage's flaws, leaving Isabella a monarch adrift in a sea of whispered scandals and genetic ruin. Her story a poignant elegy for a dynasty undone by its own relentless pursuit of purity. In the twilight of royal inbreeding's long shadow, Princess Alexia of Greece, born in 1965, stands as a bridge between ancient traditions and a modern age. Her parents, Queen Anne Marie of Denmark and King Constantine II of Greece, wove a tapestry of bloodlines knotted by dual bonds. They were second and third cousins, their union a double thread in a lineage heavy with ancestral weight. Constantine's great-grandparents were siblings, and Anne-Marie's heritage bore its own intricate tangles, echoing the unions of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. This marriage, though outwardly a union of love, carried the echoes of dynastic calculation, a fading hymn to the preservation of royal purity. Alexia, born into this gilded yet burdened legacy, represents a world where such traditions were waning, yet their genetic imprint lingered. Her life, spared the overt tragedies of her predecessors, was nonetheless shaped by a heritage that intertwined love with politics, duty with biology. The Greek court, exiled by 1973, mirrored the decline of an era where bloodlines dictated destiny. Alexia's story, though less marred by loss, whispers of a past where royal unions were both a crown and a chain, their legacy a silent arbiter in a modern age. Her existence, poised between tradition and change, reflects a dynasty's final bow to a practice that once defined empires, but now fades into history's shadowed recesses. In the forgotten corners of a small American town, Lorraine Whitaker's story emerges as a haunting echo of inbreeding's enduring shadow. Far removed from the gilded courts of royalty, the Whitaker family, documented in a starkly revealing film, became a modern testament to isolation's genetic toll. Born into a lineage shaped by generations of intermarriage, Lorraine bore the weight of a closed loop where bloodlines folded inward with no respite from the outside world. Her son, Timmy Whitaker, stands among the most genetically compromised individuals known, his existence a living ledger of biology's merciless arithmetic. Unlike the dynasties of old, the Whitakers' inbreeding stemmed not from ambition, but from neglect. A community hidden in plain sight, untouched by society's gaze. Lorraine's life, stripped of royal grandeur, mirrors the tragedies of ancient queens, her body and mind marked by the same relentless decay. The documentary that unveiled their story cast a cold light on a truth as old as Egypt's pharaohs. Inbreeding, whether by design or oversight, carves a path to ruin. Lorraine's tale, raw and unadorned, stands as a modern requiem, a reminder that the sins of isolation transcend time, weaving sorrow into the fabric of forgotten lives. In the desolate reaches of rural Australia, Kimberly Colt's story unfolds as a chilling testament to inbreeding's modern persistence. Born into a family known only by pseudonym, her lineage was a sealed vault, forged through generations of intermarriage untouched by external blood. The Colt family, hidden in isolation's shadow, practiced a cycle of inbreeding so extreme it echoed the dynastic follies of ancient courts. Uncovered in the early 2000s through police intervention, their practices shocked a nation, revealing a web of genetic and social decay. Kimberly, among the most genetically compromised individuals documented, bore the scars of a lineage folded inward upon itself, her existence a ledger of biology's unyielding toll. Unlike the royal sagas of old, her story lacked the veneer of grandeur, driven not by ambition, but by neglect and obscurity. The authorities' discovery exposed a community where oversight failed, allowing a tragedy to fester in silence. Kimberly's life, stripped of historical pomp, mirrors the ancient errors of pharaohs and kings, her body a silent monument to isolation's cost. This modern requiem, raw and unsettling, underscores a truth that transcends time. Inbreeding, whether born of pride or abandonment, weaves a tapestry of ruin that no era can escape. For those drawn to history's shadowed depths, where truth lingers beneath myth's veil, further tales await. Platforms like YouTube harbor channels that probe the past's forgotten sorrows, unraveling secrets long entombed. Subscribe and let history's haunting narratives unfold, revealing the human cost woven into time's relentless tapestry. From the sunlit courts of ancient Egypt to the isolated fringes of modern societies, the pursuit of bloodline purity has woven a tapestry of tragedy across centuries. These women, queens, princesses, and forgotten figures, were bound by a legacy not of their making, their lives shaped by the unyielding ambition to preserve power through blood. Yet in their frail bodies, unraveled minds, and silenced voices, a stark truth emerges. The quest for purity sowed decay, and dynastic pride forged chains of sorrow. Their stories, spanning gilded palaces and desolate hamlets, reveal a universal lesson. Biology, unheeded, exacts a merciless toll. The crowns they bore, the duties they fulfilled, could not shield them from the genetic arithmetic that doomed their heirs and haunted their reigns. History, often shaped by wars and treaties, bears the invisible scars of these bloodlines, where ambition outstripped nature's bounds. Their legacies, etched in loss, whisper a solemn warning. Power, when tethered to blood alone, consumes both ruler and realm. In the quiet of their graves, from pharaohs' tombs to forgotten corners, their tales linger, a haunting elegy for lives sacrificed to a relentless ideal.